All right, so as I said, we're going to pause before we get into the end of chapter 8, which is called inequalities. And we've got to be able to be successful with these lessons, not just for these lessons, but for all of our math that we're going to do in the future, not just in sixth grade, but also in junior high, high school. Even if you get to college, you do trigonometry, you're still going to follow these same processes that I am teaching you in these lessons. It's vital that you learn the systematic process in which I teach it. And I know that for some of you, when I fill out one line and then I drop down and I fill out another line and then I drop down and I fill out another line, to you that just seems like so much effort. But I'm trying to teach you that it's the best way with these extended math problems, because when you get into junior high and high school, they're going to be coming into like 3 and 4 step math problems. I need you to be able to build these to be successful. And truly, if you can do this, it's going to make your life a lot easier. There's some of you just want to do it your way, and not only do you miss points because you don't want to show your work, but then you get thrown off and your answers are wrong. So just do it the way I'm teaching you, and I promise you're going to be all right. First thing we have to do is we have to have this saying in our heads, and we're going to build on this on the next lesson when we review, because we're going to be doing 2-steps or multi-stepped algebraic equations. But if I get these steps inside my head, then math is going to be so much easier. Chemistry will be easier for me in high school. I'll be able to solve these problems without any worries. So we're going to fill this in. I want you to fill it in as I'm going along. We're going to say, I'm going to locate something. Well, what am I going to locate? I'm going to locate the variable. And if you haven't learned yet what a variable is, write it down up above, right? It's the alphabet, A, B, C, D, E, F, G, all the way through Z. Any letter that I use is a variable. When I locate my variable, then I'm going to notice what function, right? So what math is happening to it. A function, once again, we have 4 processes in mathematics, always have, always will. Adding, subtracting, multiplying, and dividing. And if you can't remember what those functions are, write them down up above. We're going to add, subtract, multiply, and divide. Step 2, then, I'm going to do the opposite function. So when I'm looking at the variable, I see the function that's happening, I'm going to do the opposite. So I'm putting 8.4 and 8.6 all together here. So understand, if I see adding, I'm going to do the opposite, which is subtracting. If I see subtracting, I'm going to do the opposite, which is adding. If I have multiplying, the opposite is dividing. And if I have dividing, the opposite is multiplying. So I have to make sure that I have those in the correct pairing. But I do that so that I can do what with my variable? To get the variable alone. That's my goal every time. If there's an A there for my variable, I have to have A is equal to. If there's a T there, I have to have T is equal to. That's my ultimate goal, to be able to tell what my variable is. Once I do my opposite function to get my variable alone, then I'm going to do that, the opposite function, on the opposite side. Here's a tangent to reading for you. Do you realize that the opposite function is the antecedent for the pronoun that? Right? This sentence, that. Well, what is that? I have to go to the previous noun. It's the opposite function. You're welcome for that extra tidbit of information. Another thing to quickly keep in our mind is we have equations, we have expressions. We've said multiple times now, expressions are math problems without an answer, right? No solution to it. So that tells us equations. Why are these equations? Well, I know these are equations because they show us that there's an answer, and we can see that there's a solution. So keep those words in mind, because you're going to see it on assignments and you'll see it on tests. So I want you to follow along. I want you to do these steps. I've put these steps on my paper. Notice on where the practice problems are. They're at the top of your paper. If you can't remember what to do, go back and look at the steps. They're there for you so that you get all of these correct. I'm going to show you all of the steps that you need to do in order to be successful. And not only that, I'm going to expect that when I collect your notes, then I want to see that you showed all the steps, and on your assignment, you're going to show me all the steps. Because if you don't, then I'm going to count it wrong. Then I'm going to make you redo it, because you've got to be able to prove to me that you can do these steps. So the first thing I do on number 1, I find my variable. My variable is B. What math or what function is happening to my variable? Well, 2 is touching it. 2 is my coefficient. And a coefficient touching a variable is always multiplication. So I know I'm multiplying by 2. Now I do the opposite function to get my variable alone. The opposite of multiplying by 2 is simply dividing by 2. Once I do whatever opposite function I am with my variable, I cross those out so I don't get confused and leave numbers there. And then I check, do I have my variable alone? I do. So I know I'm going to put v is equal to something and then do the math to figure out what v is equal to. So when I know that v is equal to whatever the math is, I did the opposite function to get that v alone. Now I'm going to do it on the opposite side. I'm going to take 18 divided by 2. Now you can show me the math. 18 divided by 2 is not really difficult, but I am pretty confident that all of my 6th graders, all of you sitting out there watching this video, you can do 18 divided by 2. But if not, get your handy dandy calculator, type it in. 18 divided by 2 is 9. So what we proved is v is equal to 9. You can always plug that in and find out by checking it. And the way we can check math is either reworking the problem or with algebra, I just plug that in. If I know that 2 times v is equal to 18 and I say, well, v is equal to 9, is 2 times 9 18? It is. So I know I got it correct. All right, so let's look at number 2. Once again, following along. And if I go too fast, pause the video, rewind it, watch as many times as you need to, but be able to get the notes and understand the lesson. Step 1, I locate my variable and I notice what function is happening to it. My variable is c and I'm adding 6. Step 2, I'm going to do the opposite function to get my variable alone. My opposite of adding 6 is subtracting 6. So when I subtract 6, that cancels it out. Does that leave my variable alone? Yep, it sure does. So I know whatever I'm doing, c is equal to something, but now I got to figure out what that something is. Found my variable, did my opposite function. Now I have to do it on the opposite side, step 3. So I'm going to subtract 6 over here. Holding up 6 fingers, take 6 fingers away. You have 0 fingers left, so I know it's 0. C is equal to 0. Plug that in and check. 0 plus 6 is equal to 6. It is. I know I got it correct. All right, number 3. So I have 6 is equal to 5 plus s. All right, so I'm not used to having my variable over there on the other side, right? So how do I do this one? The exact same way, right? It doesn't matter which side the variable is on. I still do the exact same steps throughout the entire problem. So I locate my variable. It is s. I notice what function's happening to it or what kind of math I'm doing, and I'm adding 5. So I have to do my opposite function to get my variable alone. That's step 2. The opposite of adding 5 is, well, that's subtracting 5, right? Crosses it out. What's that give me? Gives me my variable alone, right? If I've done that, that's my ultimate job. So I know that s is going to be equal to something. Now here I have s is equal to. If I wanted to just drop it down and have equal to s, it's still okay because it doesn't matter because it still means the same thing. But step 3, I'm going to do that on the opposite side. I subtracted 5 there, so I'm going to subtract 5 here. And when I hold up 6 fingers and I take 5 away, I magically have 1 left. So we're saying that s is equal to 1. If I plug that in and I check it, and I have 5 plus 1, what does 5 plus 1 equal? 6 equals to 6. I know I have to be correct. S is equal to 1. All right, so now we're going to do a 6, 7, and 8. So I have 20 is equal to b minus 5. All right, so if you didn't follow along on the practice problems on the front, we're doing the top 3 on the right now. The bottom 4 I'm going to leave in case you have extra questions, and I'll help you with them. Now I have my variable once again on the right-hand side. My variable is b. I have to get it alone, so I notice what math is going on. Step 2, I do the opposite function. Well, I'm subtracting 5, so what is the math that I need to do? Adding 5, hopefully, is what you thought. So that crosses those out. And does that give me my variable alone? It sure does. So I know b is there, so I'm going to have my answer, and it's going to be equal to b. I added 5 on the right. Now I'm going to add 5 on the left. Gives me 20 plus 5, and 20 plus 5 is 25. So we're saying that 25 is equal to B. Well, if I plug 25 into this equation, is 25 minus 5 equal to 20? It is. I checked my work. I know I'm correct. All right, so I would like you to do 7 and 8 on your own, pause the video, and then come back and check with me to make sure your work is correct. Once again, I want you to do the next 2 on the right there, 7 and 8, on your own, pause the video, come back and check. So hopefully you did what I asked. So when I go to these, we can look at this and I find my variable, and we know that it's set up in a fraction. So I didn't practice any of those with you. I wanted to see if you could walk through this on your own without me. Hopefully you went back all the way to chapter 1 in your mind. You thought, okay, Mr. Barker said multiple times the fractions are always division. So I know this is being divided by 6. So my opposite function then, to get my variable alone, the opposite of dividing by 6 is multiplying by 6. Once again, when we do algebra, we often take the x out of a choice to show multiplication because that looks like a variable. So we want to make sure that we use the floating dot, or you could do parentheses, but I think the floating dot is probably the easiest one. But that just simply means to multiply. So I have 6 times dividing by 6. That crosses those out. Does that leave my variable alone? Hopefully you said it did. So then you knew that k was equal to something, and then you did multiplying by 6 on the opposite side, and hopefully you got the answer of k is equal to 30. Okay, so all of these problems are worth 3 points, showing the steps that I'm showing my label of k is equal to, and then getting to the right answer. And then you did 8, same type of math, but the variable's on the other side. And then you said to yourself, doesn't matter, I'm still going to follow my 3 steps. I locate my variable, it's an x. I want to do my opposite function because I'm dividing by 3. I'm going to multiply by 3. So multiplying by 3 cancels those out. And you said, I got my variable alone, and that's what I need to do. So I know x is equal to something. And I multiplied by 3 here, so I'm going to multiply by 3 here. And 12 times 3, maybe you got your handy dandy calculator, typed it in, 12 times 3 equals, and you got 36, because you should have. And you got 36. You could have checked that by just plugging that into the original problem and said, will 3 go into 36, or is 36 divided by 3 12? And that answer is yes. So hopefully you got 36 is equal to x. Once again, your x could be on the other side. You could have had x is equal to 36. Still both the same answer. All right, so that's a quick review. It is a short video, right? But watch as many times as you need. I left 4 down there at the bottom. We did not do 4, 5, 9, and 10 because that's for extra help. If you need extra help, I'm here to help you. The important thing is make sure that on the back you do your entire assignment. Put your name at the top on the number or on the name line. Don't turn it in without a name. You have 10 questions, and notice all that space that I left in between your problems because I expect all the work in which I showed you on how to do these. But if you have questions, come to me and I'll help you and I'll walk you through these just to make sure that you have the process. If not, you have your homework, you should be able to get it done today and not have any homework at home.